The holidays are nearly here, and I've got the perfect gifts for the adventurers in your life, or maybe for yourself. Check out my exclusive holiday merch collection featuring cozy hoodies, insulated mugs, warm beanies, and custom gear you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're curling up with your favorite episode or showing off your fandom on the go, the merch store has something special just for you. Your purchase will support the podcast, enabling me to produce more adventure-packed episodes. Shop now by clicking on Virginia Outdoor Adventures merch store in the show notes of your listening app. Hurry, orders must be placed by December 10th for holiday delivery. From the Blue Ridge Mountains to the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia is a mecca for outdoor travel and adventure. Virginia Outdoor Adventures podcast is your local guide for hiking, camping, kayaking, travel, and so much more. Get the information and the inspiration to plan your own adventure right here in Virginia. I'm your host, Jessica Bowser. What if you could acquire the outdoor gear you need for your epic adventures without breaking the bank or contributing to the fast fashion and throwaway culture? Or what if you could declutter your closets and earn some extra cash for the gear you aren't using? April Peterson, owner of River Rock Outfitter in Fredericksburg, shares why secondhand and consignment shopping isn't just trendy. It's a powerful way to reduce waste, support your local businesses, and adventure sustainably, while also making the outdoors more accessible and affordable. April uncovers the etiquette of buying and selling pre-loved gear and provides tips for gifting used items, so your one-of-a-kind presents will be extra special. Discover unique treasures while keeping gear in the wild. Let's go. Virginia Outdoor Adventures is sponsored by Breaks Interstate Park. Breaks Park is a hiking destination in the heart of Appalachia. Every trail features something that will awe you, including geologic formations, scenic views of the canyon, stream crossings, and wildlife viewing. Trails range from easy to difficult. The convenience of lodges, campgrounds, and luxury cabins inside the park means you'll never need to wander far from the trail. Come see for yourself why Breaks is known as the Grand Canyon of the South. Download the digital trail guide at breakspark.com or click on Breaks Interstate Park in the show notes of your listening app. April, welcome to Virginia Outdoor Adventures.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
What do you love about Virginia's outdoors?
Oh man, I love everything about Virginia outdoors. You know, my husband is a retired Marine. We've lived all over the country. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is that we have the most amazing state park program. The fact, Virginia, that you can go from like tip-top mountains to coastline to marshes to flatlands and everything in between. It's just amazing that we have so much landscape that we can go and see and enjoy. So I'm not necessarily an expert, but I think that I've traveled enough to know that Virginia is one of the best states to visit for our outdoor recreation.
I'm really excited to talk with you today about consignment and resale gear, especially as we're going to be coming up on the holidays here really soon. And I thought it might be interesting to kick things off with a little bit of a quiz. Do you mind if I put you on the hot seat?
Let's do it.
All right. So I have two multiple choice questions for you. And the first one is, how many tons of textile waste end up in U.S. landfills annually? Is it A, 1 million, B, 5 million, or C, over 10 million?
Oh, man, I know it's a lot. Let's go somewhere in between B.
The answer is actually C. It's over 10 million. The number is closer to 11 million, if you can believe that.
That is wild. That's wild.
It is really wild. Yeah. But it kind of goes to show, what the fast fashion industry has done and why consignment is a growing trend in the U.S. right now.
That's exactly right.
And then my second question is, how many pounds of plastic packaging waste is created from online shopping in the U.S. annually? Is it A, 1 billion pounds, B, 2 billion pounds, or C, 4 billion pounds?
Let's go for the big one this time. Let's say C.
You got it.
It's not.
I know,
man.
right? You hope it's not that much, but it is. It's over 4 billion pounds. What we're going to be talking about today is really pertinent, not just for the sustainability of consignment shopping, but also we're going to be talking about accessibility as well, because we know that outdoor gear can be really pricey and that can be a barrier for a lot of people getting outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the power of shopping local too, because as you discussed with shipping and plastics and, when you go into your local gear shop, you avoid all that. So I think, that's a big part of the economy conversation that I think we'll have today.
How does buying outdoor gear from a consignment shop help reduce waste and landfill impact?
Yeah, and I think it's exactly what you just talked about in those quizzes, which, really opened my eyes when I heard those big numbers. As somebody who loves gear, and I have a ton of gear, and that gear accumulates in your closet, and you keep buying new gear because there's new technologies out there. Consignment programs offer us the opportunity to drop off our gear at a spot that's going to keep that gear adventuring, right? It's going to keep it in the wild so that somebody else can have access to it. And when you shop local and shop at one of your local gear stores or consignment stores, and you buy something that's been pre-used or loved, you're keeping it in action. And all of us, whether it's for a sustainability mission because you appreciate that about having a used product, or whether it's because you're trying to save some money and get some really good gear to get out there and climb or hike or paddle. There's just many reasons why consignment's such a benefit, and that resell and reuse market is such a good one for the outdoor industry.
Aside from being more eco-friendly, what are other benefits of buying used gear? How does it support the community?
Yeah, you know what? Consignment is so interesting. And I think everybody's sort of route to consignment is different. You've got consigners who, for somebody who drops off gear or has the ability to drop their gear off at a consignment store, you have the opportunity to make some money, make some store credit so you can get that next greatest piece of gear that you're looking for. You've got customers who may have, all sorts of reasons why they haven't accessed the outdoors. And one of them may be an economic barrier. And so for those guys, they can go into a gear consignment shop and find really good used gear at a cheaper price. And then you've got store owners. And, it's expensive to stock your shelves with outdoor gear. It's not any cheaper for us to buy it than it is for the consumer. And so from a store owner's perspective, we have access to this used gear where we don't have to pay it out until we've sold it. So having these three levels of customers, the customer, the consignor, and the store owner, it's just such a healthy way to do business for really all three of those people, who all three have different motivations for why they support local gear shops. And then just think about that from an economic development standpoint within your communities. When you have that used gear shop locally, and you can tie that back to your outdoor recreational economy in your community, it's just a win, 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 win. And it goes on and on, Jessica, these consignment programs, which are just really exciting.
It is really exciting. And I love going into a consignment shop and feeling that community feeling when you're in the store, especially knowing that all the items that you're seeing there came from your neighbors. I think that's kind of neat too.
It is so cool. So when you receive those consignment items from the consignor, we always ask the question, where has this gear been? And it's incredible, just that one question, those answers that you get back. I mean, the gear's been down rivers and climbed mountains, and they just have stories and good quality used gear. And we all know those brands who produce really good quality gear. They're meant to last a lifetime. Truly, they'll outlast you. So being able to put that back out in the wild and allow somebody to have access to it, just how cool is it to think that you're carrying a pack that has been to the tip top of Mount Rainier? You're just, it's like a building. It's like anything else. There's a story to that piece of gear, and you get to carry on that story.
That's right. It's no longer an inanimate object. It now has a history and a story with it. So that's kind of neat. The last time that I was in River Rock Outfitter and I was digging through some of the consignment items, one of the tags had a shirt. It was for a shirt. And the tag said that that shirt had been up Old Rag Mountain over 100 times. And I was like, what? So, some of the stories are, less significant, but I thought that one was really cool. It just caught my attention.
It's just amazing. And, our very first sell in our reboot program was my very first kit when I went off to college and I got to purchase my first kit for the first time with my own money. I went into my local REI store in Arizona where I was in college, and they hooked me up with a backpack, a tent, a sleeping bag, kind of that just initial package you needed. I doled out my money, which I didn't have very much of at the time, doled out my money and had my first kit. And I kept it with me for decades, I mean, it was special to me, even when I had access as a store owner to all this amazing new gear and I wasn't using my college gear anymore, but it was special to me because it held those memories. And so when I opened up my consignment shop, I wanted that to be the first set of gear that I sold. And it was just really cool to see the families that purchased my pack or purchased my tent. And I knew that they were going to carry on those great stories with that gear. There's so many reasons why I think making sure that this gear that was really built to last a lifetime doesn't end up in the trash somewhere, doesn't end up in a warehouse somewhere, doesn't end up staying in your closet. Release it. We like to say, release it back to the wild.
From the rivers of the Clinch Valley to the mountains of the Appalachians and Allegheny Highlands, across the Piedmont to the pine forest savannas of the Tidewater, throughout waters of the Chesapeake Bay and beyond, the Nature Conservancy is working to create a world where people and nature can thrive. Explore the protected lands of the Nature Conservancy's preserves across Virginia. Many preserves are open to the public and offer hiking, camping, biking, boating, fishing, nature photography, and wildlife watching opportunities. Don't miss the spectacular Brownsville Preserve on Virginia's Eastern Shore, a 1,250-acre historic farm where birds and other wildlife abound. From the boardwalk and trails traversing this historic farm, you may see deer, fox, raccoons, blue herons, bald eagles, wild turkeys, and many other species of birds. Or take a self-guided audio tour on your handheld device. It's like having a naturalist in your pocket. The William B. Cummings Birding and Wildlife Trail offers a round-trip hike of 3 miles through memorable coastal Virginia scenery. Explore wooded uplands, take in expansive marsh views, and enjoy the variety of life all around you. Don't forget your binoculars, field guide, and a camera. Connect with nature at a preserve near you by clicking on the Nature Conservancy in the show notes of your podcast listening app. Do you have a sense for how much money is usually saved by purchasing used gear?
Yeah, and for us, when we sit and price used gear, it really has to do with the age of the gear and kind of quality of that gear when it's brought in. And so for the most part, most gear is being priced at least 50% off of what the original MSRP prices are, and a lot of times even more than that. So when we talk about savings, there's really significant savings in this gear. Another interesting thing that we found, and it wasn't something that we were expecting, is that so many people buy this gear with these big hopes and aspirations and dreams, and then life happens, right? They have kids, their jobs, whatever, and they actually don't make use of it. So it's really surprising how often you can go into a consignment gear shop and actually find brand new gear, often with the tag still on it. And so it's not, this idea that it's this heavily used or sort of old technology in a gear section. Sometimes you'll find brand new gems that just, didn't get used by the previous owner. And so it's a lot of fun, I think, that discovery piece of a used gear shop. You get to go in, it's constantly changing. There's only one piece. So you visit weekly so that you can kind of hunt through and see what's new and what's different and what you might find. And that discovery piece within a gear shop is, I think, a really fun aspect of our store. And I know that I hear that often from other consignment shops.
Well, and also I think it's one of the main reasons why consignment in general has gotten so popular. It seems like all of the young folks are consignment shopping now. And I was talking to my friend the other day who has a daughter who is going off to college soon. And she came home from one of the consignment shops in the neighborhood with all of these big baggy flannels. And I could not believe it because I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, like that's what I wore in the 90s, but that's the style now. So she's out shopping for this kind of stuff. And I'm going, no way, this is nuts. I think it's hilarious. But if you go into a consignment shop and you're looking for something like that, it's a great opportunity to find those. It's the discovery piece that you talked about.
That's exactly right. And, thrifting is just, it's a sport, is the way that I describe it. Like young people treat it like a sport. They know where all their favorite thrift stores are, and they visit them frequently to find little special gems. And it's the most exciting thing, I think, for the outdoor industry, because one of the ways, in my opinion, we struggle as an outdoor industry is that we really focus on that older population, the ones who have the means to be able to purchase this new gear, which is expensive, the means and the time to be able to travel to state parks and, all these places that maybe, young professionals might not have those extra funds, and they may not have the time. And I love that the outdoor industry is making changes, and they're doing it in lots of ways. And you can see it in local communities. They're building local trail systems. They're building local mountain biking, parks. They're exposing their rocks and having rental programs to get people on rivers. That way you don't actually have to go far to experience the outdoors. And likewise, I think stores are bringing in this consignment component to their stores. That way we can offer a way for the younger users to be able to get in at a better price point, but still have high quality gear. And that's the piece that I want to emphasize. It's not a goodwill model, right? This is high quality gear that you're getting that has been tested by our stores and our gear experts. And we know that it's going to work for you when you get out there on the trail. And so you're still getting high quality pieces to be able to go outdoors. But I love this piece of this like local economy aspect where, cities are doing their part, and I think stores are doing their part to be able to expose the outdoors to this younger generation.
That's such a great point. And this podcast is always focused on introducing people to new activities. And oftentimes that means having to find the gear. And that can often be a barrier for folks, especially if it's expensive gear, because nobody wants to make a big investment in, let's say, a bike or a kayak or something else that costs a lot of money if they're not really sure if they're going to get into it, or, how often are they going to use that gear. And I think once somebody makes that decision and then they start shopping, this is a great opportunity for that. And so in past episodes, if I've been doing an episode about mountain biking, for example, I always ask, where can somebody find a mountain bike without having to go into a bike shop and pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for a mountain bike? And so this is the same concept, right? People can find things that maybe they don't have the means for buying brand new, but it makes it accessible to them.
That's exactly right. And the story of the customer is a really good one. But I also like the story of the consignor too, because it opens up some new doors for that person who is consigning some of their older gear, kind of like I talked about myself, right? I know that I was not going to use my first kit again. It was heavy, it was bulky. I had some access to some newer, lighter gear that I wanted to use. As I get older, I need to consider lighter packs on my back to save my knees.
I hear you, girl.
You know what I mean? And so as a consignor, it allowed me the opportunity to earn some money from that first kit to be able to put towards new gear that I could get outdoors with. And, I think the outdoor industry, this is a whole nother show, but the outdoor industry has a problem with greenwashing. So I think a lot of times we talk a lot about being sustainable, and we're more sustainable than most, as an outdoor industry. But we're just as bad as any other industry in that we're constantly producing goods, more and more and more clothes every season, more colors. And so in a lot of ways, we're a big part of the problem as well. And I think from a consignor standpoint, what this provides us is rather than constantly buying new with every new color that comes out or every new upgrade in technology, this allows us to put, our gear, which is still usable, which is still great, which is still high quality, back out into the wild, earn some money before we purchase that next great thing. And so that's that life cycle, I think, of gear, whether you're the customer or you're the consignor. And I think that's where we really start building a sustainable model within our outdoor system. And that's what I really like about it.
Discover a world of trails, wildlife, and beautiful scenery on Virginia's Eastern Shore, where you'll find the longest stretch of wild coastline remaining on the entire East Coast. Strap on your helmet and experience the Eastern Shore's most iconic sights by bike, including the wild ponies at Chincoteague National Wildlife Refuge, the concrete ghost ships at Kiptopeke State Park, and the marsh overlook at Eastern Shore of Virginia National Wildlife Refuge. One of the most exciting times to experience wildlife viewing on the Eastern Shore is in the fall and winter when bird migration is at its peak. During the autumn months, songbirds and birds of prey following the Atlantic coastline as they migrate south are funneled down the peninsula, creating one of the highest concentrations of migrating birds. One of the best places to view raptors during this time is the observation platform at the Kiptopeke Hawkwatch. Winter brings migratory waterfowl by the thousands. If you're a birder like me, this is paradise. I've been exploring the shore's 22 stops on the Virginia Bird and Wildlife Trail, including the Nature Conservancy's Brownsville Preserve. In addition to natural beauty, the Eastern Shore is also known for their local artisans, including painters, sculptors, glass blowers, wood carvers, and more. Discover unique gifts inspired by this coastal haven. Natural beauty and authentic coastal heritage. It's a sure thing. Start planning your Eastern Shore trip today. Click on Visit the Eastern Shore of Virginia in the show notes of your podcast listening app. So what kind of gear can somebody find at an outdoor gear consignment store? I imagine it's not everything, right?
Yeah, I think there's still some stigma, as there should be. When you're wearing outdoor gear, you're doing a lot of things in it, like sweating. So a lot of like gross sort of adventures, and a lot of that stuff should probably not be repurposed in a gear shop. But you would be amazed by what you find, Jessica. One of the most exciting things for our store is when we sit and think, hey, we know about everything, because we've got all the catalogs, we get to go to the buying shows, we hear from our reps. But with our consignment program, somebody will always bring in something where I'm like, wait a second, what is that? And then I learn it's discovery on my part too, where I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. That is so cool. And that's kind of that great piece to that consignment program, all the different bits and bobs that you'll find. So, gear, I think it's a great place to buy used backpacks, sleeping bags, because they're easy to clean. Jackets are a great thing to buy used, and you'll find all sorts of sort of mid layers and outer layers within a gear store. Clothes, I think, is absolutely fun, and you'll find a lot of that. In fact, the thing we sell the most is soft goods, our clothes. And again, because these outdoor brands are building clothes really well, it's not like a fast fashion sort of industry. We're building clothes with technology that's meant to last. And so you can get a lot of great clothes too within an outdoor store. But I encourage people, just go to find your local consignment shop, wherever that is, and just go in. I think maybe this podcast, the term for this podcast is discovery. I didn't even write that down, but I love that term since you and I have been talking. It is discovery. Go in and see what you may not have known exist. And I promise you will not leave that store without something cool, different. You didn't know you needed it.
Absolutely. And for folks who want to sell some of the gear that they have at home, maybe they just need to make more space or they want to declutter or they're not using it or they just want some extra cash. How does outdoor consignment work? Do they just bring it into the store and you sell it for them or what's the process?
Yeah, so definitely Google your, local consignment store. We're lucky in Virginia because we pretty much have a consignment shop in each of the regions. So anybody who's listening to this podcast has one nearby. So definitely Google it, find your local one, check out their website to see what the terms are. A lot of us have very similar terms. I mean, for River Rock's Reboot program, the consignor gets a little bit more of a percentage if they receive payment back in store credit. It's just a benefit to us, but it's also a benefit to our consigners because they know that they're going to be spending it on something. And that's the cool thing. A lot of times our consigners will come in and say, hey, I need a new pack, I need a new bag, I need a new whatever. And so they're bringing in consignment to earn their money. And we've got consigners sitting on, I'm not exaggerating, like thousands of dollars, Jessica. They just saving it for a kayak or, whatever it is that they want. So it's a really cool way to get that next piece of gear. But then consignment shops will typically always offer a cash out option too, typically at a little bit of a less of a percentage. But for somebody who's like, I've already got everything that I need. I'm not looking for anything right now. Just send me a check for my gear. And that too is beneficial to a gear shop. Again, from the standpoint that I don't have to pay you until that item has sold. And so it's a benefit to both of us, that relationship. So it's a great way to earn a little extra money or put it towards a cool new piece of gear.
Oh, how cool. Especially with the holidays coming up. I feel like it's always a good time to sort of clear things out that you don't need anymore because you know that more stuff is going to be coming in.
That's exactly right.
So for those who are thinking about shopping for others by buying consignment, is there any stigma around giving gifts of used outdoor gear and especially apparel?
I think that this is also generational. I think if you have younger people in your lives, there's very little stigma around it. I mean, these guys are comfortable. They talk in terms of thrifting. They understand sustainability in a way that I think our generation maybe didn't, and certainly older generations didn't. So if you've got a younger person, I think they're going to see it as such a plus that you bought them something used, and make sure they know it too. Maybe get some stickers from that used gear shop, put it inside the card, let them know what you did because they'll see it as not only do they get something really cool from you, they're going to understand, from a thoughtfulness standpoint, what you just did in terms of environmentalism and shopping local. For an older, generation, let's say 40 plus, not to give away any of our ages, 40, 45 plus, this is where I think you got to tell a little bit more of a story, right? I think clothes are fine. I think gear is fine. I think just look at it and make sure that you're buying a quality piece and then make sure you tell the story for how you chose to shop local to purchase them that piece of gear. You know the person that you're buying for, if they're going to be comfortable with it and what their comfort level is. And if they are going to understand and appreciate that story, then I would say go for it.
So there is some etiquette, it sounds like, when giving secondhand gear. And that's really good advice because I think the last thing you want is for somebody to open up a gift and go, you bought me what?
That's exactly right. And I think, gift giving is so personal. We should always sort of think about that end user when we're buying a gift. And it's no different if it's used gear and new gear. You know who you're buying for. And if you think that they'll appreciate that story, it's a special story. So don't be scared to do it.
Yeah. In fact, I think if I purchased something secondhand that still had the tag on it with the description of where that product had been and what that item's history is, I would leave it on. I mean, I think that's part of the charm.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Looking for an outdoor gear consignment shop near you? Check out these local neighborhood outfitters. Good Wolf Gear in Reston, High Tour Gear Exchange in Charlottesville, Roanoke Mountain Adventures in Roanoke, Trail Hut in Richmond, and River Rock Outfitter in Fredericksburg. Check your show notes for the links. What used outdoor products are appropriate to give and which ones should be skipped?
I think in general, I usually, whether it's new or used, I try to steer people away from things that are super personal, like a pair of boots, right? I mean, that's shoes are personal. Everybody's feet are different. It's hard to sort of judge that. And a lot of times with used gear shops, one of the limiting factors is because it's consigners that you're paying, a lot of times used gear shops won't have very lengthy return policies. So definitely check that, because once we pay out the consignor, we're not going to want to take that product back. So make sure you understand the used gear shop's return policies before you do this. But think about things from that sort of discovery piece, the thing that might be new or different, something that the end user, the person you're giving the gift to, may not know about. Find those unique little gems within a gear shop that are really cool and different. Packs and bags and belts and all sorts of cool things. A lot of used gear shops are also doing fun things around, there's certain rules around some of the things we sell. For example, we can't sell anything that was weighted. So we can't sell climbing gear, for example. We can't sell or use climbing gear. We can't sell helmets, anything like that, because you're not, from a safety standpoint, it's not good to buy that used. So what we'll do is we'll still take it, because we don't want it to go into a landfill. But a lot of used gear shops are doing fun things with those pieces. So, for example, they may be making dog collars or leashes out of old climbing rope. So talk to some of these gear shops to find out, hey, are you repurposing any of that used gear that's coming in that you may not have been able to sell into something cool, new, and different? So it's just, this goes on and on and on. And this is the fun part about discovering your local gear shops and then taking a tour around Virginia and discovering them all, because each specializes in different things based off of their, community of consigners. It's endless what you might be able to find and discover in a used gear shop.
April, do you want to describe a little bit what River Rock's Reboot part of the store looks like? What people can expect when they come into the store?
Yeah, absolutely. We opened store 10 years ago, and from the beginning, I always wanted a used gear portion of our store. I had fallen in love with a used gear store in Vermont that just never left my memory, and I always wanted that within our store. But coming up with the policies and procedures and getting it rolling, I never did that. And then COVID hit, and one of the challenges for the outdoor industry was sort of a good challenge and a bad challenge. On the bad side, we had supply chain interruption, where it was just really difficult to get gear. On the good side, we had a bunch of new customers, because as people had more time, because they had to, stay at home from their jobs, they were discovering local trails and going outdoors where it was safe. And so we had more customers, but less gear. And so in 2020, I started our program, which we branded as Reboot. And honestly, from a small business perspective, we talked about this earlier in the podcast, where it's motivations, right? What motivates each of the customer types to shop or sell used gear. My motivation was, I just had to get gear. It was survival. I just had to have gear in my store to sell. And so it was a great motivation for me to get kickstarted this consignment program. And so Reboot, for me, I won a grant through National Main Street, and I was able to really brand it. We came up with, some logos around the idea of recycling adventure. Our tagline is keep gear in the wild, and really was able to market our gear shop. And more importantly, every gear shop needs sales, but more importantly, we could tell the story of why used gear was important. And that's been the most fun for me. My Reboot section is merchandised right alongside my new gear. It was important to me that as customers come into the store, they don't really feel like there's a difference. If there is any of that stigma, I wanted to take down that barrier within the shop. So, you've got new gear right next to the used gear. So it all kind of meshes and melds together and tells that story. And so I've really enjoyed that. I think that the shopping experience is a good one. And any of the other used gear shops around Virginia, and I've been to all of them, because we all call each other, we all talk to each other, we all learn from each other. And all the gear shops are the same way. They're just so much fun. And like we discussed before, Jessica, it's just Your local gear shop is the heartbeat of your community. It's, one of my employees called it, River Rock, the Cheers of our downtown. We know everybody's name. We know their children's name. We know their dog's name. Our customers come in, they show us pictures from their travels. Like, we just get to know each other in a way that I'm not sure happens in all other stores. So outdoor stores are so special that way. And I encourage all of your community, and I know your community is so good about supporting outdoors. So I'm preaching to the choir here, but go and find your local gear shops, that kind of heartbeat, and discover the ones that are selling this used gear. And they're going to help you with that discovery piece to get that very special gift or that next piece of gear that you need to get outdoors. And maybe even more importantly for our local communities, they're going to tell you about the local trails and the local water and the local rocks and all the fun ways that you can adventure just walking outside, your back door. So it's all linked together. And, Jessica, the fact that you tell that story every day with your podcast is just, an important link to all of this. We're all doing such good work to promote the outdoors and all the benefits of playing in the outdoors, particularly in Virginia.
River Rock has some exciting things coming in the future, doesn't it?
Yes, well, because of all these wonderful things we were talking about on here, my programs are growing and expanding, and that's great. And so we are opening up our second store. We're still in Fredericksburg, but we're taking it outside of our historic district, and we're opening up in an outdoor mall center here called Central Park. And basically, that's just going to give me more square footage, more usable square footage to expand my new offerings, but to also expand and continue to grow Reboot, which is what we're really excited about. So people will be able to find us in that new space in April of 2025.
Wow, I can't wait. I mean, I love the location you're in now, but also I could see where it's a little awkward because you are downtown Main Street area. So parking, you kind of have to sometimes park a block or two away. And I've seen people carrying kayaks out of your store down the street.
Well, and the same with our consigners. Our consigners bring in these big bags of all of their gear, backpacks and shoes. And so I think giving them the opportunity to make that process easier, we're really excited about.
Yes, whenever you can park a little bit closer to the door, that's usually a little more convenient.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here really soon, but I have a couple of closing questions, and one that I'm really excited to ask you, especially since you were sort of the gear queen and you know everything there is to know about outdoor gear. And that question is, what is one piece of gear you can't live without?
You sent me this question in advance, and I'll tell you what, I lost some sleep over it last night because I have so many babies, so many fun pieces of gear that I love. But I started to think through like my adventures and what is always with me. And Keith and I, my husband and co-owner of the shop, we love to travel. We love adventure travel, discovering new locations and countries and places. And the one thing that's always with me is my Patagonia black hole duffel. That sucker, it's a duffel and it's a backpack in one, which is perfect for the type of traveling that we like to do. So I feel like if that might be, I don't want any of my other pieces of gear to hear me say that one's my favorite, but I definitely think I use that one the most.
That's awesome. Anything that's versatile like that tends to go to the top of the favorites list, right? Like you can do so many different things with a versatile piece of gear, and that makes it worth hanging on to for a really long time.
That's exactly right.
Awesome. April, how can listeners connect with you and with River Rock Outfitter?
Yeah, check us out on our website at www.riverrockoutfitter.com. And you can also follow us on our social media pages at River Rock Outfitter on Facebook and on Instagram.
April, thank you so much for joining me today on Virginia Outdoor Adventures. Do you also want to mention what your store hours are for people who are coming in for some holiday shopping?
Yeah, heck yeah. So we are open 7 days a week. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday, 11 to 4. And if you follow us along on our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram at River Rock Outfitter, you'll find that we've got some extended holiday hours too, which we're excited about. So yeah, come on down, check out Fredericksburg in the holidays. It's like a Hallmark town. It's amazing.
You are absolutely going to see me in Fredericksburg before the holidays. I'm going to be in the shop for sure because I'm really excited to be doing some consignment shopping this year for the first time for other people. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much, April. Adventure on.
Thank you, Jessica.
Virginia Outdoor Adventures is inspired by and supported by listeners like you, which is why your messages and feedback mean so much to me. You can text me directly by clicking on Send Me a Text Message in your show notes. I answer questions, respond to comments, and share your feedback on the show. Never miss an update. Get even more information and inspiration by signing up for my newsletter. Click on Newsletter Sign Up in your show notes or visit virginiaoutdooradventures.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adventure on.